and who do we have today?
Okay, so we've got Zach Spuckler here today, and we want to just tell you guys a little bit about why we wanted to interview Zach before he tells you a little bit about what he does. So we were lucky enough to head up to a conference up on the Sunshine Coast in 2017, and Zach was one of the VIP speakers at the conference, and he not only is a very down-to-earth, heart-centered man entrepreneur, which we really liked, but he's also extremely good on the strategy and has developed an amazing definition of what success looks like for him in his business.
Yeah.
Do you want to add anything?
I just wanted to say we couldn't take notes fast enough while he was speaking. He does speak fast, and he'll be the first to admit that because I think he warned us numerous times at the beginning.
Yeah.
But he's just full of awesome information and inspiration. And yeah, we're just really excited to delve into success for Zach.
So Zach, do you want to tell everyone what your business is and maybe a little bit about how you help people, and then we'll get into everything?
Sure. So my name is Zach Spuckler. First off, thanks so much for having me, guys. And my business is Heart, Soul, and Hustle. And we help digital-based businesses leverage online marketing, specifically Facebook ads, challenges, and launches to kind of build their business and sort of create that freedom that they're looking for. A lot of people in this space are doing it because they don't want to work a 9-to-5 or they want more time for themselves. And so we work with students and clients to help them leverage their online programs, consulting, coaching, so that they're able to generate the revenue they need to create the life they want.
Yeah, perfect. Just sums everything up, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. Okay, so one of the things that we wanted to chat to you about today was before everything kind of became businessy in your world, what happened before that led you to the point where you decided, right, business is for me, I would like to be self-employed? Tell us a little bit about what happened for you.
Yeah. So I actually made my first dollar online when I was 12. And I know that because in the US, you have to use your social security card if you want to get paid. And I wasn't actually old enough. So I was actually using my dad's number, and he was getting paid. And I was essentially, getting paid through him. And it was an online thing. I couldn't even tell you what it is anymore. But I remember really just always being super intrigued by the idea of not being responsible to somebody else's time, not being responsible to somebody else's dime, and just really kind of have always wanted to figure out a way to just be self-sustaining. Even when I went through college, I worked part-time as a freelance writer, and that was really fun. So I've done anything and everything that you can imagine online, from SEO article writing to I flipped a couple of websites to I've played with affiliate marketing. I've played with, this is like old school, but building Web 2.0 properties to boost SEO ranks. If anybody knows what that means, they'll get a good chuckle out of how old school that is. But I've just tried everything and everything. And in the last few years, I decided look, I have so much that I've learned and that I've tested and I've played with. Why don't we take this to the market, to the masses, and have some fun with it?
Yeah.
Awesome. Now, you were actually at what we call uni, but you call school.
Yes.
You were about 22 years old, and you decided that you wanted to basically just go off and do your own thing at that point. And I know you said that it was a little bit scary. So what kind of made you think, I can't be successful in what I'm doing now, but I can see a lot of success in what I've chosen to basically quit and move.
Yeah. So I always throw out the disclaimer, when you put the polished story on, it's left college to start a really successful business. I had what in the US is called an undergraduate degree. So I actually already had a degree. I'd already gone to school for 4 years, and I was getting a master's degree that I ultimately walked out on. And I walked out on my master's degree. It was an incredible experience, and I don't ever regret. Sometimes I'm jokingly, I'm oh, why did I go to school? But I don't ever regret it because I got so much experience and so much life and business experience because of the people that I got to meet. But I actually had built a relatively successful company before I left. So that really helped me. And so, I had always heard they say burn the boats and just go all in and just jump into it and leap and the net will appear. And there's nothing wrong with that. I think that those are absolutely true. And there's absolutely been times in my life and my business where I have made big leaps or taken big risks. But when I left school, I had my first 5-figure month. And that's what really prompted me to be you know what? I can be really successful doing this. I'm going to be really successful doing this. And, I was able to step away from something that wasn't really lighting me up and step into something that was. And that's what ultimately led me to kind of walk away from school at the time.
Yeah, I think it's a perfect example of, like, we have a lot of mums or just women that are either working and looking at having a business and wanting to do it alongside. And for them, like for you, it was study and, doing it alongside of that and taking the leap of faith. There's a difference between just quitting and taking the leap of faith to building it up alongside to a point where you can say, okay, now I can take a bit of a leap of faith and decide that either studies, I'll finish that there, or move on from my job. And it's good to have a bit of a few, not accolades, but success under your belt, I think, to still say, right, I can actually, there is a need here, I can satisfy that, and it's worth money to me to do it.
Absolutely.
Okay, so today you've got a bit of, like, we've met you, we know a little bit about your home life and your business life and the way that you balance that. What does success look like to you today in your life, in the way that you have to try and balance everything? Because you can't, like, you say you hustle, but I know that you don't hustle 24 hours a day. You've got a team that helps you. So what does success look like for you?
Yeah. So for me, I always say, like, success is just being able to do what I want, when I want, and how I want to. Yeah. And for me, it just really comes down to, look, I don't want to be working so much that I don't get to enjoy the fruit of my labor, because I've done it. The first year in my business, I was like, I don't need an assistant until I make $100,000. I don't need anybody to help me. I don't need to outsource anything. I need to just buckle down and do the work. And, there's nothing wrong with that. Like, it's a common theme that I'm like, I wouldn't do it again, but at the same token, I don't regret it. And I probably would do it again, because it taught me so much. But success for me is, like, I can do what I want and my business supports me. And, I've talked relatively openly about this on some of my other shows, but, I've struggled with depression and anxiety. And sometimes it's nice when you need a mental health day to be able to say, like, look, I need a mental health day today, and I can step back for, a few days or a couple of weeks, and the business will support my life. And I think that's what it comes down to, is the success is, look, the business supports the lifestyle. It's not a lifestyle supporting a business. Yeah. And that's been huge for me.
Yeah, that's huge. And I think that, when you're in business, you do have times you have to buckle down a bit, and that, but that's okay. It's okay, because you can, when you're working a job full time, if that's all you're doing, which, again, nothing wrong with that. Like, we need all the people that are doing all those things.
Yes.
But you tend to have, a limited amount of time that you have off. That's your holidays. I can't remember what it is in the US. Is it 2 weeks? I think we have 4 weeks here typically, but
yeah, it's pretty standard.
Yeah. And, but in your own business, it's the fact that, like you said, you can choose the times that maybe you're saying, right, either I want to earn a bit more money now because I want to do something, or I'm going through a launch and that's going to be a bit busier, but you're prepared to do a bit busier period, knowing that, well, that'll give me the opportunities to be a little bit more relaxed at other times.
Absolutely. And it's that freedom to be able to say, like, look, like right now in my business, we're in, like, what we call a downtime. Like, revenue's a little lower, work is a little bit slower, but it's intentional. And I'm completely okay with saying, like, look, we're a little slow right now, but just like you said, we have a big launch that we're planning that's coming up. So it's not like, oh, I slowed down and what am I going to do because the business is slow. It's like, I can choose that right now I want to have a slower business in terms of working a little less, stressing a little less. And then when I'm ready and I've got a little bit of time that I've kind of stepped back and recovered from whatever I've been doing, traveling or working, that I can step back into it and say, okay, like, it's go time. Like, let's go all in. And maybe we will have, like you said, a few busy weeks, but it's the choice that, like, look, I get to choose if I'm super busy or if I'm super mellow. And that freedom of choice just makes the whole thing so much easier.
And I think that this kind of is a good little interlude into what I wanted to ask you about your week as well. Like, what does an ideal week look like for you compared to maybe a busy week? Because I know some people have this idea that they need to work 80 hours a week to be successful. And it's a preconceived idea that comes from money mindset, doesn't it? It's like, well, my parents worked really hard, so that's what I have to do.
Yeah.
What are you doing? Because we know that you earn at least 6 figures in your business. You have big launches. What does that look like for you?
Yeah. I mean, a typical week, like, I've always said, I wish I had like this perfect answer, because I've been asked this question a number of different ways. And I always like to say, like, I wish I was like, oh, I do the miracle morning every day, and I wake up and I meditate for 10 minutes, and then I'm just so blissed out while I drink my coffee and look over the ocean. Like, but it's really not like that. Like, for me, an ideal week is, look, I work about 20, 25 hours, and I have the rest of the time to do what I want. For me, one of the biggest things was I used to work through the weekends, and I don't really work the weekends anymore. Sometimes I may step in, like, if I've got a little bit of time on a Sunday, or I'm behind schedule on something, I may step into the office, which is what you're seeing right now. I work from home. So I might step into the office for an hour or so. But for the most part, an ideal week for me is, look, I'm not overworked. I'm not exhausted. I'm working a reasonable amount in the business that we're moving forward. We're making progress. We're hitting our goals. We're hitting our requirements. I think there's kind of this shift that happens that maybe you guys have even seen when you're doing something like a summit or a launch. As your business grows, like, it goes from I'm trying to grow the business to I'm hitting my I don't want to say qualifications, but I'm hitting my targets. I'm hitting what needs to get done. I'm achieving what needs to be done. So for me, an ideal week is, look, I work about 4 to 5 hours a day. I'm hitting those targets, and we're moving forward in the business. And that's not this ideal of like, oh, I wake up and I feel great. And at 10 a.m. to 2 p.m., like, that's my work block. Like, some days I do work 8 hours. Some days I work 4 hours. But ideally, I'm working somewhere between 20, 25, 30 hours. And then in a launch week, I'm working like 40, 50 hours, maybe 60 if it gets super crazy. But an ideal week for me is just like, look, the business operates in a way that creates the lifestyle that I want, which is to do what I want, when I want, how I want, which means I'm self-contained. The other thing that I think will answer this question in a little more exciting way is I don't schedule anything before 11 a.m. And with
just about to take it on ourselves, yeah.
Yep. And then with reservation, like, rarely do I schedule anything after 5 p.m. I'm actually doing this a little after 5 p.m. because you guys are in Australia. Every once in a while I pick up an Australia client, but I have like a rule where I'm like, look, I'm not working after 5 p.m. more than 2 or 3 hours a week if I have to. Yeah. So it's like, it's this healthy medium of like, look, I don't have this perfect life or this perfect business where everything runs perfect at exactly 4 hours a day. But I'm also setting up boundaries where, look, if I don't want to work after a certain time, or I'm not working at a certain time, like, that is allowed to be, because it's my business, it's my rules. So I don't work first thing in the morning. I don't work last thing in the evening. And outside of that, I'm free to go with the ebb and flow of every day, where if I'm in a creative flow that I want an 8-hour day, awesome. And if I'm in a creative slump where I want a 3-hour day, awesome. I can do that too.
Yeah, absolutely. So this probably leads us into, life hasn't always been like this for you in business. Like, you've gotten to a point where it's quite good, but I'm sure there were some struggles earlier on through the journey.
Yesterday.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, there's always, things that we're coming up against, and it doesn't matter what level we get to. It just seems to be newer, bigger, different, whatever things. But how about you share a little bit about some struggles that you had to overcome to be able to maybe up level so that you could get to this sort of...
Sure. I mean, the biggest struggle that I had to overcome to up level was really outsourcing. And I say this all the time, that this was one of the biggest things for me, because the first year in my business, I set an arbitrary metric of $100,000. Once I do $100,000 in revenue, then I can hire someone to help me. And I won't say that like I never hired help, or that I didn't outsource like little one-off tasks, but I like actively refused to bring in a virtual assistant to manage my inbox. And the irony is, to this day, I don't manage my inbox well at all. In fact, I don't even really know how we ended up on this call, because I didn't schedule the call. I I actually had my assistant over the other day, and she was like, did you send everything over to Courts and Christie? And I was like, no, I totally didn't. Like, let me get on that. So I put up so much resistance to being like, you have to have a certain level of success before you can have someone supporting you. You have to be at a certain level of success to have an assistant. I still don't really love the term assistant, but that's what I have, is I have an assistant and a virtual assistant.
Yeah. You did a great job.
You did a really good job. That's right.
Yeah, she's amazing. So it's like, that was probably my biggest struggle, because once I realized, like, look, it's not about being better than somebody. It's not about being above somebody. It's not about being somebody's boss. It's about bringing in the support that creates a business that supports the lifestyle I want to live, and quite honestly creates a better lifestyle for some of my assistants. You know, they get to work from home. They get to work part-time. They get to set their own hours. Like, there are people that would kill to make that living, you know, but they don't. Right. So it was reshaping the way that I thought about that and reframing my thoughts around that. It made a huge difference for me. So I always tell people now, like, I don't think you need to wake up on day one and outsource and be like, I'm outsourcing everything. But if you feel like you may be ready to outsource, you probably are already past that point.
Yes, that's so true. So true.
You know, you brought something up that's interesting, and I think a lot of people will resonate with this. When you're managing your inbox, say your support inbox,
or not managing it,
the customer service inbox, it can actually, if you've got anxiety, it can actually be really scary to do that. And when you're dealing with refunds or complaints, and then you don't deal with it, because it's really
a problem.
It compounds the problem, but it also just exacerbates your own anxiety. So I think people that get a bit of a golden nugget out of that, right?
Yeah. I mean, honestly, that was one of the biggest shifts. And you know, like, I try to not like pretend to be perfect. I hope I'm projecting that, right? But like, when we first got started, we would get refund requests, and like, I don't care what business you're in, you're going to get refunds. I don't care if you sell widgets or courses or coaching or consulting or management. Like, it really doesn't matter what you do. At some point, somebody's going to ask for a refund. And it used to just be this like gut wrenching, like, oh my gosh, what are we going to do? And now it's like, oh, we got another refund. Like, I don't see the request. I don't see the back and forth. I don't see what's happening. And it's not that I don't care. It's not that I don't understand the process. Every once in a while, something gets to me where my team will be like, you know, what are your thoughts on this? Here's the situation we're in. But I don't deal with that one-on-one of like taking on that responsibility, because just like you said, it can be frustrating. It can be upsetting. And even like the standard inbox, you know, not that we get a lot of refund requests in there, but we get, you know, to my personal, we get like, hey, do you want to be on this show? Can I be on your show? What are you doing this week? Have you tried this new software? Hey, by the way, we updated this. Did you notice your billing statement for that? And it's just like, it just gets to be so much. And it's like, you know, a question that was posed to me by a mentor is like, is the time spent in your inbox really paying you back? And like, it's not. So not only is it stressful, but it's not building up the business like I wanted to. So I simply move myself back, because again, my definition of success is doing what I want, when I want, how I want. And I don't want to be stressed out by a ton of emails.
I don't want to be doing my inbox.
Exactly.
Well, I mean, like you say, so many of the emails are, you know, nothingness. You know, you don't get anything out of them, or you don't need. It's just a matter of you've got to file it away because it's a new payment or whatever. So there's plenty of people that can manage that for you. And then if there's something that does need your attention, they can ask you. And it's a real filter system for what is, you know, worthwhile of your time. And then your time is far reduced to answer those questions or give feedback. So
exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, so I would like to know if there's been a bit of a defining moment for you early on, or even like as recently as this week. I know that there's always defining moments that happen in our businesses that has really put you on a trajectory to where you are now, because obviously, like, I actually was reading through your bio on your Facebook page earlier on this week. And, you know, you were mentioning that you once upon a time used to look to all these amazing people that you'd put on a pedestal, and it was like, these are amazing business people, and now I get to JV with them or podcast with them, or, you know, whatever project you're working on. So what has kind of happened that has led to you to be able to do that, or to up-level your mindset, or whatever you needed to do?
Sure. So that's a really good question. I think if we're going the path of like what really made that possible, I would say joining a mastermind was a huge defining moment for me. And I invested like 80 to 90%. I wish I knew the exact number, but I don't have the bank statements anymore. But 80 to 90% of like my liquid assets, I put right into a mastermind program because I was like, this is going to be huge for me. And to give a little bit of background without like turning into a whole rabbit hole, like a mastermind is essentially you pay a premium to be in a room with other people who have paid a premium. But ultimately, you're doing it because there's this collective mind that's more powerful than the individual mind. And being in that mastermind, it opened up a lot of doors and opportunities for me. And it's not to say that like, well, because I paid that money, all these doors open. That's not quite what happened. It's to say by investing in myself so heavily, it forced me to step up in a lot of different ways. Because if you're going to invest what at the time was $20,000, if you're going to invest that into a program, like you got to show up. Mm-hmm. And so for me, that huge, one of those big defining moments that ultimately led to, a lot of opportunities, being on some really awesome podcasts, doing some great joint ventures was essentially like putting my money where my mouth was and saying like, I'm going to show up big. And now I'm actually in that mastermind for the third year this year. And I'm continuing to go with it. So, if you can take anything from this, because I always like to make sure that there's some tangible takeaway, because I'm sure some people are already like, well, I don't have $20,000 to spend on a mastermind. And like, the reality was I probably shouldn't have either, but I did. But it's not to say you need to go out and spend tons and tons of money, but there's something you can do where you're at right now that forces you to invest either time or money or energy or effort that's going to force you to play at a higher level. And if you can identify what that is and kind of start playing with that, it's only going to serve you better.
Yeah. And the whole, you're the average of the people that you hang around, it's a bit cliched, but it is so actually true. Like,
oh, for sure.
There is power in authentic connection and collaboration. And, who really goes a long way. And some people don't like to admit that. But,
I was just going to say, even coming from a sports background, the better the team you're playing, the better you step up to play against that team. If you play a team that's weaker than you, you actually end up playing down to their level, which sounds terrible, but you can just beat them when you should be able to really, kill them. Yeah. But if you're playing against a team that really on paper is a better team than you are, you can sometimes beat them or at least be so equal to them. It's giving me goosebumps just talking about it because it's so true and it's exactly the same in business.
Zach, when you joined the mastermind for the first time, did you feel intimidated or were you
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, I was so excited to be there, but I absolutely felt intimidated, especially because of the financial investment of it. But I think the more you can push yourself into an uncomfortable situation, the more it forces you to kind of step up, just like you were saying. Like when it's easy and you can show up at 50% and do just fine. But when it's hard or when you have to show up a totally different way, like you really have to show up and it can be a challenge.
Yeah.
Yeah. You dig deeper, I think. And
Okay. So let's go to the future. You're 100, you're in a rocking chair somewhere in America or wherever you want to be.
Wherever lifestyle suits you then.
And you're looking back on your life, what do you really hope that you're remembered for and what legacy do you wish that you have led?
Yeah, this was a tough one. And I read this question and I'll be totally honest, like I didn't come with a prepared blanket statement that I was going to be like, and this is what I want to be known for. But, honestly, I just want to be known for having made people's lives a little bit better. I don't necessarily think that I have this huge legacy to leave behind. Maybe one day. I mean, I think that vision is always evolving and changing. But, for me, it's the little things of like, when I launch a course, it's easy to get really, really excited about the launch numbers or the revenue that comes in. But what's really fun and what has been really impacting me lately is watching people succeed at what I'm helping them with. Yeah. And, we just had this woman inside one of our programs who helps people walk unruly dogs. And she had a really financially successful launch. And that just made me so happy because, I don't know what it's like, but you know, it's cool to see that somebody who is literally living their passion and is just trying to have a good time with it and create some more revenue and live a life of freedom can teach what they're really amazing at and get paid for it. And so in terms of like what I want my legacy to be, I want it to be like, I was there to help those people that just wanted more out of life to get a little bit more. And if I can help do that with, you know, 10, 20, 100, 1,000, 10,000 people, that's going to be amazing. And it's just those small daily actions of making small daily differences that for me, I think is going to be the legacy that I leave behind.
Yeah.
I love that.
It's beautiful. And I think that the other part is that you are impacting far more than the individual businesses you're impacting because you're helping those guys do what they love and what they're good at. You know, so the dog walker or whatever, hearing your dog in the background is
yeah, my dogs are going to join in right towards the end.
Because lucky we didn't say WALK. But all of those people that are impacted by that business are also being impacted because of you, because they wouldn't have been reached if that business hadn't have had the success either. So I think it's the same sort of thing for us, because when you have a business that helps people in business,
it's a ripple effect.
It is a ripple effect of the other people that you end up having touched without ever knowing who you are. So it doesn't, like you said, it doesn't have to be this legacy that, well, Zach helped me find my dog walker or whatever. But by default, that's what we get to achieve. So it's exciting.
I think it's a bit of a soul journey, isn't it? It's like, if you just think about yourself and nobody else for a minute, it's, you know, a lot of people in business go through some huge shifts in their mindset and the way that they see the world in general and the relationships that they have with people. So I think that in itself is a legacy when you're actually a changed person as a result of doing what you're doing.
Absolutely.
Okay, Zach, now the dogs have come because they're excited. They want to know what your free gift is. So do you have something that you can actually give to the people who are watching or listening on SoundCloud who might, you know, want to just hang out with you a little bit more?
Sure. So I've got a freebie. It's a little unrelated, but in my business, we help people with 5-day challenge launches. Awesome. So if you are a coach, a consultant, a digital course creator, and you are looking to map out a 5-day challenge, we've helped people successfully launch a litany of products in a multitude of spaces, right? Just to throw in the fun words. So if you want to check it out, I think you guys are going to link it up. But we've got this free little workbook that'll help you map out your own 5-day challenge. So if you're like, if you just love me so much that you want to learn more, you can check it out.
Yeah, brilliant.
You have a Facebook group as well, don't you?
Yes, and I also have a Facebook group. If you head over to hearthustlers.com, it's no opt-in. It'll just take you right to the Facebook group.
Yeah,
beautiful.
Awesome.
Fantastic. Right. Thank you
Zach,
so much.
Thank you for seeing us outside of your work hours.
I know.
Of course. Thank you for having me on.
Yeah, that's right. So we can fit it in.
All right, that's awesome. And for those of you who are listening, if you want to give us feedback, feel free. We love passing the feedback on to the speakers. So we would love to hear what you have to say.
Awesome. Have a great night. Thanks, Zach.
Bye.
Bye, guys.